Hey, what is going on, guys? In this video today, we're going to be discussing a question that has become very popular recently. Is Fortnite dying? Fortnite has basically been the most popular video game in the world for a little over a year now. That's obviously an incredibly impressive feat and something that rarely if ever happens in the video game industry. If you've played video games for maybe 5+ years now, you probably remember titles like Halo and Call of Duty. These were games which were incredibly popular in their prime, but over the past few years have really died down for various reasons. Over the weekend, a YouTuber named ThatDenverGuy made a video about this exact subject titled The End of Fortnite Goodbye. This video went semi-viral in the Fortnite community, getting close to 650,000 views in the first day it was released. I thought it was an incredibly well-made video that brought up a lot of really interesting points about Fortnite and whether or not the game is truly quote-unquote dying. So what I'm going to do in this video is discuss the most interesting and controversial points that were made in that video. I would definitely recommend checking out the full thing when you get the chance, and without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so the first point that I want to cover from ThatDenverGuy's End of Fortnite video are the statistics that he brings up about the game's supposed decline. He takes a really interesting approach to try to quantify the overall popularity of Fortnite, and I'll play that clip from his video right now.
This is Google Trends and is a 100% factual indicator of exactly what Google has accumulated for data, and these are the stats for the last 12 months of Fortnite. On the left side, we see peak after peak in such consistency that all the people saying Fortnite was dying from like May to July, even into October last year, they were wrong. They were completely wrong. Fortnite was doing amazing. But if you were one of the people that called it around November and December last year, you were right. That was about the time that we started to have a shift and a trend downward. We had a couple other successful peaks since then, but nothing came close to Fortnite in its prime. Look at the last part of the graph there in March 2019. It's at the lowest point we've ever seen in Fortnite since the game got popular in like October of 2017. If that isn't a red flag to us and Epic, then nothing will be. So maybe you're like, well, this is just searches and not actual player numbers and all that. And you're right. Epic keeps those numbers under wraps, like insanely private, and seeing stuff like this gives us a pretty good reason why they might want to hide their player numbers.
Now, I definitely agree with a part of what Denver said there, but I also disagree with another part of it. Google Trends actually does give a really nice snapshot of the internet popularity of really anything you could ever search. And I totally agree with his point that Fortnite's internet popularity slowly declining over time is definitely a pretty big deal. However, I also don't think that Google Trends tells you the whole story about the amount of players actually playing the game. Here's what I mean by this. In that clip I just showed, Denver specifically pointed out March 2019, so last month, as the absolute lowest point Fortnite's popularity has ever been at according to Google Trends. But you want to know another statistic about Fortnite in March 2019? Well, at the 2019 Game Developers Conference, which took place at the end of March, Epic CEO Tim Sweeney announced that in March, Fortnite set a new concurrent player record of 10.8 million. And in case you don't know what that means, concurrent refers to the amount of players playing the game at the same time. This actually broke the previous concurrent player record of 10.7 million, which was set the month before in February. Now, I want to point out that 10.7 million number was actually from the Marshmello concert event. So that shouldn't really count because it was during a major in-game event that's obviously going to make more people than normal play the game. But that's okay because about a week later on February 16th, Fortnite also recorded a new record for concurrent players during a non-event with just under 8 million. Along with that, from November to March, which is roughly a 3 to 4 month time period, Fortnite's total player base rose from 200 million to 250 million. A 25% total player base increase in 3 to 4 months for a game that's already known worldwide and has been for the last year or so is obviously incredibly impressive. And if you remember, the first major event that really got the "is Fortnite dying" conversation going was the popularity of the game Apex Legends. But in response to that, Epic's CEO also claimed that Fortnite didn't see any visible cut in player numbers during Apex Legends' peak. It's funny because he specifically names one video game that really competes with Fortnite. I'll give you guys the exact quote and try to guess the game that he mentions here. He says, "The only game you can see where its peaks cut into Fortnite playtime is blank. It's another game for everybody, wildly popular around the world." I'm sure most of you guys would guess games like Call of Duty, Counter-Strike, maybe PUBG, but the truth is, it's a game that isn't even in the same category as Fortnite. It isn't a battle royale, and it isn't even a shooter game. It's actually FIFA. That's right, a sports game is what Fortnite themselves views as their biggest competitor. I just thought that was really interesting and also super surprising. So even though online searches about Fortnite may be going down, according to the numbers that Epic has shared, this isn't really resulting in any kind of drop-off in the player base. Now, Denver was 100% right when he said that Epic pretty much keeps all their player data statistics hidden from the public. So they can basically pick and choose exactly what and when they want to share. But again, it's not like concurrent players and overall player base numbers are small, unimportant, or misleading figures, so take that for what it's worth. The next point I want to discuss from Denver's video is what he believes is the biggest reason for the game's apparent decline. He sums his point up really nicely in about 25 seconds, so here it is in his own words.
Here's what I think is going on, and I'll say it until the day Fortnite servers go down because the problem will last that long. A lot of players are getting too good. The skill gap is way too big right now, and Epic knows this is a problem. I think they are panicking right now. They're trying to get a pro scene together. They put the ranked mode out and make sudden and unpopular patch changes, and it might just be too late.
I think this point he makes here is a really good one. To further the point a little later in the video, he shows a ton of screenshots from literally pro-level players, basically saying that Fortnite has gotten too hard even for them. And it's also worth noting that some of the screenshots he shared were before the removal of health and mats per kill from public matches. Even though apparently Epic's player base numbers were still growing strong in February and March, I think they started to become concerned with the game's increasing skill gap and decreasing amount of online popularity in that same time frame. So they started to make some questionable changes, and I love the way he described it by saying they panicked, because that's exactly what I think happened when they decided to remove health and mats per kill in public matches. Like I've mentioned before on this channel, I do understand why Epic decided to do that. They felt health and mats per kill made it too hard for casual players to succeed, and at the end of the day, like it or not, the casual players are what keeps the vast majority of video games going. But I also think it's important to remember what I just stated a few minutes ago. Fortnite set new concurrent player records first on February 16th and then again sometime at the beginning of March. I don't think this is a coincidence when you remember that health and mats per kill, the faster farming rate, and the 1500 material cap were added to the game on February 14th and removed from the game on March 27th. And keep in mind, before setting the concurrent player record in February, Fortnite hadn't set a concurrent player record since November, about 3 months earlier. So from December to February 14th, no records. Then they add the siphon changes into public matches, and in the first month there in the game, 2 concurrent player records are set. And here's something that I think should scare Fortnite more than any Google search numbers or players complaining about the skill gap. I've seen a lot of content creators complaining that April has been by far their worst month for support a creator. Apparently their amount of supporters and overall revenue from it are way down. If that's actually true, then you gotta think the exact same thing is happening with Fortnite's revenue overall. People aren't happy with the recent changes, so they aren't playing the game as much, and that results in less cosmetics being purchased from the shop. So based on my research and general feel for the game and Fortnite community, here are my overall thoughts on the question, is Fortnite dying? I definitely think it's a hard sell to say that Fortnite is truly dying based on the numbers Epic shared from the beginning of 2019. A bunch of concurrent player records and a 25% increase in total player base size in roughly 4 months is pretty wild for a game as popular and mature as Fortnite already is. But at the same time, that doesn't mean Epic can do no wrong. I think the overwhelmingly negative feedback we're seeing from the community over the last 2 weeks or so is gonna result in at least a short-term dip in player numbers. Luckily, Epic has access to all of those numbers, and they're surely going to be watching them very closely. So if they do see a dip like so many people are predicting, I would expect them to make some significant and positive changes. Maybe not the original siphon settings, but I could see something like 25 health/shield per kill, 100 mats per kill, and maybe a 25% faster harvesting rate. At this point, I think me and almost everybody else would take that. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you watched the entire thing, be sure to let me know with a comment down in the comment section below. My question is, do you guys think that Fortnite is truly dying, or do you think it's still fine and all the panic is mostly overrated? Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, do whatever the heck you want, and I will catch you guys next time.